Cat got back, did a little bit. Now we hardy, buffy, tough, do-rag and Tim's. Kinda hard to get a job back out on the block. Charge that to the game.
Good afternoon and welcome to Expose Under the Sun. I'm Sharon Dumas, I'm your host, and I'm really excited today with the guest that we have today because it's politics time again, it's election time again, and we really want to make sure that we talk to the true politicians that we believe that will get in there and do the work for us. So today we have Miss Carol Banks. How are you, Carol?
I am doing awesome, and yourself?
I am doing fine. I am so excited to see you and have you here for the show.
All right, great, thanks.
So tell us some of the things that you're doing now.
Ooh,
Just a couple things.
just a couple. Well, currently I am employed with the City of Detroit, Councilman Scott Benson as his Chief of Staff. I am in charge, I am the chairperson of the Senior Task Force.
Oh, okay.
And that Senior Task Force now is citywide, so we've gone from just being on the east side of Detroit to being citywide. One of my biggest and most proudest projects with the seniors is the RAMP program. We just initiated the RAMP program last year. We had a senior call our office who had been homebound for about a year.
Okay.
Couldn't get out of her home, and we reached out to everybody under the sun, and finally a contractor who actually is here in Highland Park reached out to us and said that he would build the ramp.
Okay.
So he was able to get all the materials donated, and some other contractors were able to come on board, and we built the ramp for her for free. So that is one of the newest things that I've been working on. Now he's committed to about 14 ramps for me in the city of Detroit, and I am working dearly with him so that we can make sure that we raise the money so we can get that done.
That's good. And congratulations, because it takes a lot of compassion
Yes.
to deal with seniors. Now that
Yes.
I'm a senior,
Ah.
I just don't like the way people want to treat me. So,
Okay.
to have that compassion says that you are for the people.
Oh, yeah, most
so
definitely.
Thank you so much for that.
You're welcome.
So tell us why you're here.
I'm here today because I am running for state representative in District 2 on the east side of Detroit. Currently, that seat is held by Betty Cook Scott. Betty Cook Scott has endorsed me. Thank God for that. She is moving on to the Senate seat. But I am here because I want to be elected to that seat. For me, it's not about a title. It's not about the position, but it's what the position can do for my district. And when I'm elected, the position can make sure that we get the necessary resources in terms of more revenue sharing, in terms of making sure that public education is protected, and in terms of making sure that health care, mental health care is protected. So for me, I'm running because I want to make sure that my district is taken care of. I've lived in the district all my life.
Okay.
Born and raised on the east side, went to Lily Bridge Elementary School, went to Whitney Young Middle School, went to Denby High School, and I still live on the east side in the house
Okay.
that my aunt and her husband purchased in 1961.
Wow, that is fantastic. So tell us the boundaries.
The boundaries start at Jefferson and Iroquois, go all the way down Jefferson. We pick up all of the river. We go all the way to Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Farms, Grosse Pointe City, come back around. We pick up some of Haverhill, Moross, Neff, I-94, come all the way up to Van Dyke and Gratiot, and then keep going back down to Jefferson. So it's a huge district. It draws, it's not, I guess you'll say it's not even an L shape. It's like a little U, like,
Right.
and I represent about 100,000 people in that district. So it's huge.
Okay.
Very
so
huge.
Since you've been in the community for such a long time, I want you to look into the camera.
Okay.
And tell your friends and your neighbors why they should vote for you.
Okay. I'm going to tell you why you should vote for me. Because when it comes to Carol Banks, I have done a lot for the community, but not just for the community, but for the community that I live in, because I feel that if we're going to elect people, we have to elect people who are passionate, who are real, and who are concerned about all the issues, not just some of the issues, not just the issues that affect my family, but the issues that affect the entire community. The seniors, making sure that they're taken care of. The young people, making sure that they have jobs. I have a scholarship program that I do, and a lot of the times that when I do the scholarship program and I buy books for kids and uniforms, usually we do a little small fundraiser in my area, and then whatever we're lacking, I'll donate out of my personal pocket. So for me, it's not about me and mine, it's about making sure the community is taken care of. You need to elect people who are really genuinely concerned about the community, not trying to make it a legacy seat, not trying to say that I moved here 2 or 3 years ago and now I'm concerned. You need to make sure it's somebody who's been there and who will look out for you regardless of whether they're elected or if they're just a community activist. That's why I'm running.
That's fantastic. I'm voting for you. I'm not even in your district. I'm voting for you.
Tell your friends. Tell your friends.
You know, I asked you this question off camera, so I want to ask you on camera. Do you
Okay.
have any relatives with the same last name that's in politics?
No, I do not have any relatives with the same last name in politics. I will be the first in my family to be elected as the state rep. I am a former elected school board member, 2009 to 2013. Again, I was the first elected in my family, and they're very proud of me, and they're really behind me, pushing to get me to be the state rep. So I am not related to anyone with the last name Banks.
Thank you very much. And what does a state rep do?
Oh, state rep makes policies for the entire state. But there are 110 state reps. So each district has their own policy maker. Just like everybody's happy about the driver responsibility piece. That's a piece of legislation that was reenacted by Granholm, put in place, and it affected the entire state of Michigan. It really hurt the city of Detroit because a lot of people lost their driver's license because they could not pay the fees. Mm-hmm. Now, you know, as of October 1, that's gone bye-bye.
Really?
It's gone bye-bye. So all of your fees, everything will be gone, and you'll be able to go to the Secretary of State and get reinstated with your driver's license. So what a state rep does is we write policy that affects change in our various communities.
And what plans do you have to be in the community more so? I would believe that you're going to be in the community where people can see you knocking on those doors.
Oh, yeah, I'm doing that
and you
now.
want them to come out and speak to you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what can neighborhoods do in order to help people to get out to vote for you?
Well, right now we have 39,000 registered voters in the city of Detroit. Out of those 39,000, only 5,000 of them vote in the primary. So for me, I need people who are registered to vote in the primary. Anybody who's listening to me today, you need to call your friends who you know are registered voters, and you need to tell them, let's go and vote in the primary. What people don't understand is the primary is the most important part of the election. Because in the primary, you make the decision who's going to move to the November general election. And for us as state reps, the primary is our election. Especially in the city of Detroit and the Three Grosse Points, because we're a Democratic city. We're Democratic. So what happens is whoever wins, you're done. You win. You can go on and help the governor candidate. You can go out county and help candidates because you've won your election. So I need those 39,000 people who are registered in Detroit in District 2. I need you to come out and vote for Carol Banks because the primary is my election.
Okay. Give your contact information.
My contact information is 313-244-5509. My website is votecarolbanks.com. My email address is vote4carolbanks@gmail.com. So and you can just query me and it'll come up. If you put in my name, all of that comes up what I just said.
And you have a lot of experience working in politics,
Oh,
behind the scenes.
yes.
Tell us some of that.
I've done, where do I want to start? I started actually as a precinct delegate a long time ago, but let's go back further than that. I started in 1973 when I worked on Carolyn Cheeks Kilpatrick's campaign as a write-in with the Shrine of the Black Madonna.
Okay.
I was a young person then, and from that point on, I knew I wanted to serve. I knew I wanted to serve and I wanted to lead. So that's where I started. Before that, I've worked in Lansing with 2 state representatives, Lamar Lemons the father and Lamar Lemons the son. And there we worked on legislation where, you know, at 16 you used to could drop out of school.
Right.
But that was a piece of legislation that Lamar Lemons worked on, and I worked with him on that, and we were able to raise that age to 18.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes,
Congratulations.
you no longer can drop out at 16. You have to stay in at 18, and if need be, you can stay in school until you're 19 years old.
Okay.
Because the purpose of that is because we want you to get a diploma, not a GED. A lot of places want to see diplomas now. And so even though you can go and get a GED and be successful, but sometimes people will ask you, well, why didn't you stay in school and get your diploma?
Right.
So we kind of put that legislation in place where you have to stay in school at least till 18.
Wonderful.
So those are some of the things I did when I was on the state legislator side. Now, when I was an elected school board member, piece of policy that I'm very proud of is the bullying policy.
Okay.
When I was doing school board time, we had a lot of internet bullying, and kids were just, I mean, this whole Facebook and Snapchat, it was real ugly when it started. And I was able to implement policy where we put policy in place that if you were caught bullying, there were severe consequences. And usually what we tried to do is do treatment, because we don't want to lock the kids up.
Right.
So we try to get in their heads and find out why they're doing these things. So we set up counseling and things like that. The good thing about the bullying policy, it didn't stop in Detroit. Governor Snyder, we met with him and the legislators there, they made that bullying policy statewide. So it started in Detroit at our school board. It ended up being a statewide policy. So I'm really proud of that.
You should be very proud
I'm
of that.
very proud of that. So those are two things that I really feel good about. I work really, really closely with my seniors in terms of when Medicaid Part A, Part B came out,
Right.
nobody understood those forms. So we kind of put those things together and sat down with them and made sure that they got those things put in place. So, I mean, I could go on and on because I've done a lot. The special needs community, when I first started working with them, we used to have a special needs committee at Detroit Public Schools. And that committee was dissolved. When I got on the board, we started the committee up again. We went to the state. We talked to the state legislators. That committee was put back in place. They were able to go to Wayne Risa and get training. So that's another piece of, something that I've done that I'm real proud of.
Well, I'm proud that I asked that question.
I could go on. There are a lot of things that I've done, but
I mean,
I don't brag about them, though.
It's not about bragging. To me, it's not about bragging. It's really about me knowing enough about you because I'm out there watching and know a little bit about your background that's real and that has made a difference.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I feel about it.
Okay.
So hopefully if you're out there and you're watching, you're actually going to vote for her. And
Yes.
take what she said, her experiences and the things that she's done, take that and make your decision on voting
Right.
for her. That's really what's important to
That's
me.
important.
What about, with the shooting,
Oh.
the 17 children that were killed? What are you doing, or what do you plan to do to increase the voter registration for young people? Do you have a plan yet?
Well, actually, I've been talking with some young people over at the Matrix Center. It's called Putting You First. They're high school age children. So I've been getting them active in my campaign. They've been walking with me, knocking and talking, and I'm trying to explain to them how important voting is and how much power you have behind voting. So I'm working with that group right now. I'm also working with a gentleman named Quincy Jones to try to activate the registered voters that are in my district. We're putting together a plan. Right now, I'm concentrating on the people who are voting, and we're putting together a team that will be knocking, walking, and doing robocalls to kind of reach out to those who are in the district but are not voting. So that's kind of where we are with that.
Right, and what I thought about when you were talking is that if each of those registered voters that you know of, those 5,000, if they would just bring two,
Yes,
if they would just bring two to vote for you, I think that would make a big difference.
that would make a huge difference.
I mean, then you're grounded in the community. You've
Oh, yeah.
been there since you were a very young person.
Oh, yeah.
And you've worked your way up. You've got so much experience behind the scenes. So it would be great to see you now in front.
Yeah, and that's my purpose really of running. It's not about the title, but I just think that I have helped so many people, and I have some ideals and some things that I think that can make a difference in the community. But
Right.
to do that, you have to be the leader. You have to be the one in charge, not the one
Absolutely.
behind pushing everybody else's agenda. So I want to push my agenda, which I know will better the community in the district too.
I believe that as well. Can you give your contact information for us?
Carol Banks, 313-244-5509. vote for the number 4, Carol Banks at gmail.com. Vote carolbanks.com.
Great. And what district?
I am District 2, State Rep District 2. It is Detroit, Grosse Pointe Farms, Grosse Pointe City, and Grosse Pointe Parks.
And I truly believe that we better start voting
We have to.
because the city is changing now, right?
Oh my
And
God.
pretty soon we
Oh
won't
my
see
God.
faces like yours.
Right. And if
anywhere.
we really want to see us continue to lead,
This is the
we
time.
have to vote. We're I guess you would say, I don't know if people read the Bible, but if you read the book of Revelations when it talk about times and it's time for this and a time for that,
Right.
we're living in those times right now. And if we want to make sure that we see us as a people be successful, we've got to get out and vote.
Right.
You know, just like we went to see Black Panther, like we were talking about.
Yes.
I need y'all to vote like we going to see Black Panther and Wakanda or whatever
Yeah.
it was.
If you're from Wakanda.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. I get that part. You know, another thing is that I've heard some young parents tell their children they're not voting because it doesn't make a difference. What would you say to that parent?
What I would say to that parent is that you wouldn't be in the position that you're in now if somebody hadn't voted. It's not even quite, it's 50 years now.
Right.
If someone was not pushing that ballot for us to vote as African Americans, you wouldn't even be having a
wouldn't have
conversation
that
with your
option.
baby. And you would not have the job or where you are today because of those people behind us that helped to get us to where we are now. The Fannie Lou Hamers, the Rosa Parks, the MLKs, the Malcolm X's. I mean, I could go a long way. See, and that's why it's important for us as a people to know our history. And that's why I get so upset sometimes when I'm sitting at the table talking to my grandkids and my kids, and I'm talking about history, and they're really listening. And sometimes my grandson will say, G-Ma, you need to come to my class and tell them that. Because he
Right.
said, when I tell people these things, they laugh at me. And it's not funny, but it's just about how you're being raised.
Right.
So just like the Jews in the Holocaust, they tell that story when they're 3 years old, they start telling it. So I think that we have to get in that position where we're telling our story all the time.
Absolutely, and I believe that it's later than we think. It's so much later. I mean, it was her children and my nephew was in the car, but I had to speak up and say, hey, hold on.
Right.
That's not what you tell a child.
That's not what you tell them.
That's not. And so with my organization, I talked to my girls, and one young lady came back and said, I have 7 adults that live in my household,
Okay.
and only 1 voted.
Oh, wow.
I said, well,
Wow.
what does that tell you? She said that means that if you know, it was Trump, you know,
Right,
if
right.
he gets in, it's going to be their fault. I mean,
Right.
that's because she was exposed to the information.
Right.
You
right.
know, so it doesn't matter who we are. Have that conversation with the neighbor's kids
Yes.
or anybody.
Right, right.
Because the bottom line, they're still all of our children.
They are. And then when I see children who are 17 and 18, I always ask them, did you register to vote?
Right.
Oh, no, Ms. Banks, I haven't. And the first thing I do is I go to my car because I keep a little stack in there. I go get the registration. I say, I need you to fill this out, and I'm going to take it downtown myself. You're going to get a voter registration card in the mail. And when you get that card, you call me because we're going to go vote together.
Absolutely. And I know maybe politics can't be in the schools, but those who are going to prom need to be at the door at prom.
That's
Did you
right.
vote? Did you register to
That's
vote?
right. But you know, the clerk has the ability to go into the schools and register children.
Maybe that's what she's doing.
Yes,
I'm not
17.
really sure.
She can do that because she's already an elected official, and she's not doing anything wrong. Years ago, I don't know if people remember Jackie Curry.
I remember her.
She used to come when she used to be at the door when kids were getting ready to graduate, and she would be handing them the registration forms out. She would have her team throughout the city doing that. So that is something that we could do now.
Right. Right. And that's something that's definitely necessary.
That's necessary.
Especially with the young man, his last name is Hogg, that's leading the charge.
Yep.
I think he's doing a fantastic
I do
job.
too.
And he said this is not a black and white issue.
It's not.
This is not a black and white
It's
issue.
not.
So, and he was saying that more black young people need to stand up and join them. And that's what I'm hoping, that maybe he can come to Detroit.
Oh, I
and
wish
then,
you would.
you know, he can influence or encourage our young people to get out there and register as well.
Yep. That I think he's doing an awesome job, and I just hope the fire catches on, not just in his city, but all over, so that
Right.
young people would register and vote.
So on your card, you have restoring revenue sharing for residents. What does that mean?
Well, as you know, the state of Michigan has cut dollars to townships and cities throughout the state. What happens is every year you get money that comes to your city from the state so that you can do your operating costs. That money comes from the beer and wine taxes, comes from the the fire to help the lighting taxes. So there are certain taxes that are paid to the state, and then through that we get revenue sharing. That revenue sharing goes to each city individual to help us with operating costs, police, fire, schools. So what has happened over the past during the Republicans' reign, they have cut those dollars tremendously. So we need to restore those dollars and put cities and townships back to where we were. Like the city of Detroit, we lost a lot of revenue sharing. And that was done on Engler's watch and Granholm's watch and Snyder's watch. So you can imagine why we ended up being in bankruptcy, because the dollars that we should have gotten from the state we weren't getting. And then we had other issues because property taxes, the whole foreclosure piece. I mean, there's a lot that stopped Detroit and put Detroit in the bankruptcy situation.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I mean, if Granholm was a Democrat, why is she taking money from the city? That's an interesting point.
Yeah,
That's just very interesting.
A lot of interesting things happened at that time.
Absolutely. Also, fighting for lower insurance.
I've done some research on insurance. I've looked at other states that are that are around us: Indiana, Ohio. I want to say Wisconsin. I looked at and Illinois. They don't have the numbers that we have. But what I've been told when I've called those states, they don't have what we call catastrophic medical coverage that we have. What happens with us is we have that big coverage, whereas when you get in an accident versus charging you $50 for something, it may triple and be $200. So what we need to do when it comes to medical insurance, and car insurance, we need to start talking to the medical industry, because they overcharge us when you have
an accident.
There you go.
'Cause that's the question they ask. Were you in an accident?
Exactly.
Right.
So you're getting charged more when you're in a car accident versus if you're just looking at your regular insurance policy. So there are some things we can do. But because we are not working together as the two parties, which the Republicans and the Dems, we're going to have to look at that whole no-fault piece and try to revamp it. Because I believe there's a way we can bring those numbers down just from studying the states around us. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some work. But I think if we're willing to do the real research, talk to the other states, see what they're doing with their medical costs, I think we can bring those numbers down.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Yeah, and I've really been studying it and looking at it. And here's the other piece. If we really want to change insurance, how about Detroit finding an insurance company that's giving everybody a good rate? And then we all change to that one company. I bet you they'll come down then.
I bet they will as well.
So, I mean, there are certain things we can do, but we got to think smart and not just be reactive. We got to be proactive. And I think that's where we mess up. We just get out there and do whatever.
Right.
You got to think it through, do the research, and start talking to some people on both sides of the aisle and try to make this thing happen.
Right. Think it through is
Think
key.
Think it through.
Because sometimes we're impulsive and we jump right in instead of thinking it through. Protecting our children's education.
Oh, yeah, that's one of my biggest pieces. I think teachers are underpaid and overworked. So for me, and I know people get angry with me when I say this, I would start with the teachers. I would look at what their salaries are, because they have a tough job. They're not only teaching, but they're disciplining. They're dealing with mental illness.
Yes.
They're dealing with parents. So I think that teachers need to be paid a whole lot more. So I think we need to look at the numbers, where they are and where they need to be. I don't think a teacher should start at $35,000 or $40,000. I think the minimum start salary should be about $55,000 or $60,000 with good benefits, because it's very difficult. So first of all, I would start with the teachers, because if they're paid right, they'll do their job. Secondly, I would look at the class sizes. If you look at DPS, the class sizes have grown tremendously. Over 25, you can't teach. I don't care what anybody say. I've been in those classrooms. If you're going to have more than 25, you got two bodies in there. So for me, I would look at the classroom sizes, bring those down. And the state has the power to do everything that I'm saying. because public education is a creature of the state. They're the mother, and we're the children.
Right.
So we have the power to do that. That piece I would do on education. The other piece, and this is really dear to my heart, we've got to talk to the parents. We've got to teach parents how to be parents.
Yes.
To me, that's a big issue. Children are a creature of their environment. So if parents are not teaching at home, how do you think I'm going to get someone in my classroom that will be able to learn? So we need to work with parents and teach them how to be parents. Go get some grandmas and some grandpas to sit down and talk to them and teach them how to be parents. I'm talking about going back to basics. You haven't heard me anything say about technology, Facebook, anything. I said let's go back to basics. Let's sit down with these parents and teach them how to raise their children. Children should not be cussing me out and calling me everything but a child of God and sitting in the car with somebody smoking weed on the way to school. So, I mean, for me, we got to get that parent together. We got to get them rounded and help them to understand. If we want doctors and lawyers and nurses and customer service people, we got to teach them at home. Learning starts at home. And it starts in the womb, and it starts at 12. Once they start talking, that's when you start teaching.
Right.
So I think we've missed that mark when it comes to parenting now. So those are some of the things I would do.
It sounds good to me. I mean,
oh, and I'm serious about this.
We can tell.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get so excited. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I can definitely see and feel your passion, and I'm really hoping that people will actually come out and vote for you.
Yes, they
Carroll
have to
Banks
vote.
District 2, and those who are voting for you, those who are voting, if they could just bring 2 to 3 people.
That's right.
Out, or make sure that they're registered and come out and vote, because it's just so important right now.
And when I go to the households and I walk and I knock on doors, there may be 3 names on the list that are voters. And I get the person that I see that voted, and I talk to them, and I say, well, I see you have 3 or 4 of the voters in the house. They said, girl, if I can drag them out, I will. But what I'm saying is that usually in each household, the ones that I've been knocking on doors, there's been about 4 registered voters in that house, and only 1 is voting.
Right, and we need to think also that now that our president is talking about, instead of food stamps, boxes.
Oh my God.
Food boxes.
Oh
and
my God.
Now that if you're on assistance and getting food stamps, you're now going to either have to go to work, go to school. I mean, these are all things, they're in their comfort zone, but now it won't be comfortable.
It won't be comfortable at all.
It won't be comfortable anymore. So it's just so important that people actually get out and vote.
And
so give your contact information.
Oh, yeah, my contact, Carroll Banks, 313-244-5509. My Gmail account is vote4, carrollbanks@gmail.com. And my website is votecarrollbanks.com.
Okay. We only have a couple minutes left.
All right, okay.
But I'm giving those couple minutes to you.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you so much.
I want you to look right into the camera.
Okay.
And let people know why it's so important, first of all, to get out and vote.
Okay.
But then also to make sure that they come and vote for you.
Okay.
Again.
Well, first of all, we know there are several things that are going on, just not on a local level, but on a national level. Voting is important because it changes your life. If you don't vote, there are a lot of things that you're going to miss out on. Now, we pay for Medicare and Medicaid out of our check every 2 weeks or every week, and they're talking about making us work for our own benefits. That's a reason why you should vote. Our children need to be educated. They're talking about limiting the dollars for public education. That's why you need to vote. Our seniors are being taxed on their pensions, and they've already worked and paid taxes. That's why you need to vote. Now, why you need to vote for Carroll Banks is because I am seriously passionate about this. I believe that I can make a difference. I have worked in the community over 20 years, and I'm not afraid to challenge the Democrats or the Republicans. It's not about a party, it's about people. So I want you to let my experience work for you. I'm serious about this. I've already written policy, and I'm not afraid. So if you want somebody who's true and going to be real about this, you should vote Carroll Banks.
Absolutely. And remind them of the 3 key things that you have done.
Oh, yeah. The 3 key things, the recent key things, the senior ramp program, the whole policy piece on bullying, and then the whole piece on the disability for our young people, making sure that their IEPs are up to date and making sure that our disabled children are getting the resources that they need, whether they're in public or whether they're in a charter school. So those are my recent things that I've done. But when you go on my website, you can read a whole lot of things that I've done. So for me, it's about people versus the parties, okay? People versus the party. It's not about the dollar. It's about us making sure that our district and the state of Michigan and people are getting the things and having a good quality of life. So vote Carol Banks, District 2, August 7th. Please go to the polls and vote Carol Banks.
And if you're a senior, make sure that you get your absentee ballot in time.
Yes.
So that you can vote as well. And can you give us your boundaries again?
Yes, the boundaries start at Jefferson and Iroquois. We go all the way down to Grosse Pointe Park, Grosse Pointe Farm, Grosse Pointe City. Come around, we pick up the Meringue and Marosse area, pick up Neff, Harvard, go all the way down Warren, pick up EEV. Pick up, there's one other community, Morningside, come all the way back up to Gratiot and Van Dyke, and then come all the way back down Van Dyke, back over to Jefferson and Iroquois. So it's a huge district. It's 100,000 people in the district. There's a lot of votes out there for us to get. If you're serious about making sure that someone is passionate and wants to do the right thing, vote Carol Banks and let my experience work for you.
Thank you so much for
Thank
coming on this
you.
show. It
I
was wonderful.
appreciate it.
You've been watching Expose Under the Sun. We're looking forward to seeing you next week.
I'm fabulous. Hi, Mommy. Hi, Daddy. I'm fabulous.
Young cat got back, did a little bit. Now we hardy, puffy, tough, do-rag and Tim's. Kinda hard to get a job back out on the block. Charge that to the game. Young girl, she grew up in a rush.